Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a new Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls video. Today I'm going to be teaching you a level 70 build for the Reaper of Souls expansion for the Barbarian. Now it's very important to note that this is indeed a softcore build, so I know for all of your hardcore fans out there, you can still try and use this, but your survivability won't be guaranteed. Now if you're not a Barbarian, but for example a Wizard, but you still want a level 70 build, click right there. It's gonna open in a new window, so don't worry about that. And it will actually be a video that I made recently that will explain everything that you need to know about the Wizard. Or if you're looking for another class build, make sure to hit the subscribe button below because all of the classes are going to get a build guide in the very near future. So when I was doing my own research for the Barbarian build, it actually turns out there's a lot more different abilities that a lot of Barbarians are using than opposed to the Wizard, for example. By the Wizard, there's a couple of abilities that practically all of them use. However, if you're a Barbarian and you're level 70, it very much so depends on your playstyle and on the amount of gear that you have, and obviously on the difficulty that you're playing at. So you're gonna have to adjust this build accordingly. So in general, it turns out there's actually 3 different builds for the Barbarian. Most common and probably most well known is going to be the Whirlwind build. Second most known is going to be the Hammer of Ancients build. And the third most common build is actually the one that is kind of like a combination of those two, where you're running a Whirlwind build but you're also having Hammer of Ancients out. Now it's important to note that obviously a combination of those two requires an insane fury regeneration, and obviously the Whirlwind build also requires very good gear. So I'm not going to focus on that in this video, but we might do that at a later point. However, we are going to focus on the third one, which is the Hammer of Ancients build, which you can use from pretty much as soon as you hit level 70 to the very best gear in the game. A lot of the highest damage Barbarians in the game currently are running this build right now. Hammer of the Ancients is simply a very strong ability that will work from terrible gear to very good gear, and it will actually scale accordingly as well. Now when we talk about my Barbarian, these are the abilities that I am using. However, my gear is nowhere superb. I maybe played about 10 hours or so after hitting level 70, so this is definitely something that you should adjust accordingly. Like I already mentioned, you need to change a couple of abilities according to what you want to do. Okay, so first a very quick overview of my gear. I'm currently at 528,000 damage and 6.4 million toughness. Now, you gotta keep in mind that things like the helm and whatnot will have increased damage for the Hammer of Ancients, which is obviously going to be the core ability of this build. So you gotta keep that sort of stuff in mind, but as you can see, this is nowhere near the maxed out version of the game. So even though my gear is not the best, this is the actual build that I am using currently, and that allows me to actually quite easily farm Torment number 1 rifts and bounties and all that kind of awesomeness. So first I'm gonna go over all the abilities that I am currently using, and after that I'm going to explain to you what you might be changing up instead if you want to change according to your playstyle. So maybe you're playing a lot in a group, maybe you're playing a lot solo, you might want to change a couple of abilities. So my very first ability is Frenzy with the rune Maniac, and this is simply just here to generate threat but also to get some extra fire damage done. Next, the core ability of this build is going to be Hammer of the Ancients with Smash, and Smash increases the weapon damage to fire damage with 640%. So the first big damage dealing ability is going to be Avalanche with Glacier. This is actually an ability that has a 30-second cooldown and that you will be able to use at pretty much every single elite group that you encounter. Next up we have Overpower with this rune right here. It is going to increase your damage to 760% weapon damage as fire. After that, we got one of these abilities that you can quite easily change out. We got Battle Rage with Bloodshed, and this is one that actually deals some extra damage if you critically hit an opponent. And last but not least, we got one of the strongest ability for the Barbarian is going to be Wrath of the Berserker with the rune Insanity. As far as the passives go, I use Unforgiving, Superstition, Bloodthirst and Rampage, which are kind of the standard abilities to use nowadays. So like I said, a lot of these abilities you can quite easily change out into something else. Now what would I say are the most core abilities to this build? It is going to be obviously the Hammer of the Ancients, it is going to be Overpower, and it is also going to be Wrath of the Berserker. These are the 3 abilities you probably shouldn't really touch that much. Maybe you might want to change out a rune just because you prefer another one. For example, you might want to change out the Wrath of the Berserker with maybe Thrive on Chaos instead of Insanity, but that is all up to you and goes about your playstyle and the gear that you're using currently. However, the abilities right here on the left side, you can indeed change out. So maybe you don't really like Frenzy, you don't really like the way it works, so you maybe have an item that will actually give you bonus damage with Cleave. Well, you might as well change that out and change it accordingly to what you want. Same goes for Avalanche. Avalanche is very useful, but it's quite slow. A lot of people, a lot of players prefer using Sprint instead. So let me actually find Sprint right here. Sprint will allow you to obviously move a lot faster, so if it turns out that you don't need Avalanche and you don't need the extra damage that it gives you, you might want to change it out for Sprint and Marathon instead, just to get the extra movement speed. It all depends on your playstyle. If you play a lot in a group, Avalanche won't be as useful, and Sprint might be much more useful in order to keep up with your group. Also, Battle Rage with Bloodshed is one that you can definitely change. For example, you could go for Marauder's Rage, which will increase your damage by 15%, but if you notice you're dying a lot, you might want to change it out to Warcry and Impunity. Impunity increases all your resistances by 20%, and is an incredibly useful ability. Simply changing from Battle Rage with Bloodshed to Warcry and Impunity will make you so much more tanky. So you need to choose this ability according to your gear and according to your playstyle. I personally really like to play with Battle Rage and Bloodshed. As far as the passive skills go, here you can choose of a whole lot, and you need to once again change this according to your playstyle. For example, a lot of players really like Weapon Master, which will obviously give you a bonus according to your weapon. Or maybe you realize that you are dying a lot and you want the extra bonus armor from Tough as Nails. Or maybe you do not have as much fury as you would like. Well, maybe something like Earth and Might, which you use with Avalanche every single time, might be very useful for you. Like I said, you need to adjust these accordingly. These are the ones that I am running, but if you want something else, definitely give it a try and figure out exactly what you want to use. All in all, I'm very happy with the way this skill set is going so far. I am also still testing out things here and there. If my gear is turning out to be better, I might want to switch out a couple of things. My first change would probably be Avalanche. I probably would rather have Sprint on there, just because, you know, it is faster to move in between elite packs and all that kind of awesomeness. But right now, I notice it's kind of tough to kill these elite packs without the Avalanche and the Glacier rune. I also noticed that I was dying kinda quickly lately, so I actually swapped out my Weapon Master passive for the Bloodthirst passive. And what the Bloodthirst one does is basically heal you for every single point of Fury spent. It is currently healing me for 578 life per Fury point spent, and obviously with the Hammer of Ancients, that ends up in being a lot of heals. So it definitely depends exactly on what you want to do and what you want to achieve in the game, so change this stuff accordingly. So yeah, that is pretty much the build that I am using currently for the Barbarian. Make sure you adjust accordingly to what you want to be doing in the game. And as always, if you're actually interested in more build guides, make sure to hit the subscribe button below and you will actually get a little notification as soon as I upload new videos. Other than that, if you have any questions or any suggestions, make sure to hit me up in the comment section below and I will try my best to answer pretty much everything. So I want to thank you guys all for watching, have an amazing day, do not forget to smile, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a new Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls video. Today we're going to be discussing the